Quiet on the set.
Lights. Camera.
Action. Roll camera.
Welcome to Podcast 11, The Heart of Reconciliation, Part 1. You can find it in Chapter 4 of our book, Marriage on the Mend. Well, as you can probably tell, we're a little more casual here today because we're filming on location during our 40-day marriage mission trip. We happen to be at St. Augustine, a beautiful city, actually the nation's oldest city, and I'm standing here in front of the castle walls. And we've chosen this spot to talk about some of the things that will strengthen your marriage, strengthen the bridges of forgiveness and faith that you're going to need to build. And you know, as we speak to couples about their marriages, whether they're couples that are on the road of restoration or they are couples who just want to strengthen their marriage, a lot of them will ask us about the how. You know, how did you reconcile? How do you strengthen your marriage? And what we like to share with them is it's much more about the heart. And so what I'm going to share in this podcast, and then Clint will also share in the second part, is the heart of reconciliation. You know, a lot of times we can point our fingers at our spouse, but God says, let me work on your individual heart. And so the first heart attitude I want to share with you is to be prayerful. Instead of directing your finger or pointing the finger at your spouse about the things that he or she needs to change, place that finger back toward your own heart and ask the Lord in every situation, in every conflict, in every time of struggle, Lord, how do you want to change my heart in this? And begin with that prayer. I guarantee you, he will not say no to the prayer that asks, Lord, how do you want to change my heart through this circumstance? So that first attitude of the heart, and as we share these, they're all of equal importance, but we start with prayer. Lord, how do you want to change my heart through this? And directing your heart in your hands to God in prayer. The second tip of the heart of reconciliation is to be mindful. And what we mean by that is sometimes when you get on rocky ground or you're struggling with things in your marriage, temptations begin to kind of flitter by about, you know, maybe the grass is greener someplace else. And you really have to foster a spirit of reconciliation and a heart of reconciliation in your marriage. You really have to remain mindful that no matter what wave comes, no matter what struggle we're in, no matter what, you know, my spouse does, I'm going to be mindful with you, God, ask for your mind to really keep me tethered to you first and then to this marriage. And so when those temptations come, you know, I'll be honest with you, I gave in to the temptation. I walked. I thought the grass was going to be greener on the other side. You know what? It isn't. And so my encouragement to you is to really, you know, hunker down with God in that commitment that no matter what occurs in my mind, I am not going to let those temptations come by and try to sweep me away from my spouse, but instead I'm going to remain loyal to God first and then loyal to my spouse. The third kind of tangible tip I want to offer to you is about gratitude, about being grateful. You know, I mentioned at the start of this podcast that we're here filming in St. Augustine. St. Augustine was a man devoted to God, and he knew how important the heart was. As a matter of fact, he said our souls can't rest until they find their rest in God. And part of that means gratitude. You know, when we're grateful, instead of focusing on the frustrations we might have with our spouse, focusing on the things that we're grateful for, that puts our soul at rest. It puts our soul at rest with God, and it puts our soul at rest with our spouse. And, you know, sometimes keeping a gratitude journal and listing some of those things that you're grateful for is helpful in your marriage. I know a lot of times if I'm feeling some frustration come up, I just, you know, turn on some worship music and spend some time praising God and thanking Him for Clint, thanking God for who He is in my life, and something happens. My perspective shifts and my soul finds its restful place through gratitude. No mistake, I'm standing in front of a fortified wall here for tip number 4 in fostering that culture of reconciliation in your marriage, because it's about being approachable, letting down your defenses. You know, a lot of times when we get frustrated with our spouse or irritated, or maybe there's a traumatic trigger, something has triggered pain from the past, the first thing we do is put up a big strong wall like this, and we don't let our spouse cross in. But really, if you look at the ministry of Jesus Christ and what He did, it was about being very approachable, inviting, conversation from our spouse and with our spouse, to listen more and to talk less. I know I have a shirt that I hold up sometimes in our seminars that says, if you have something to say, raise your hand and then put it over your mouth. And it's a good reminder, because we want to invite interaction with our spouse. And if we're struggling, especially if we've had, some kind of revisit from pain in the past, we want to really welcome and be approachable, let down our guard, let down our defenses, and so that we can engage in conversation and get over that hurdle. All right, the fifth and final attitude I want to share with you in this podcast is that of being resourceful. It's okay to get help. It's okay to get outside help from good, godly counsel. It's okay to seek a mentor couple, prayer partners, those people that God puts in your life to help you through your marriage. We're not intended to do marriage alone. We're intended to do them with like-minded people. And so even if, you're struggling with difficulty so much so that you need to seek some professional counsel, do that. Other couples who have been through the fire, like Clint and I, are a wealth of resource for you simply because they've been there. They've walked in your shoes. We made a decision early on in our remarriage to become students of marriage and to really equip ourselves with various resources so that if we were struggling in a particular area, we had the resources to help us in that area. Of course, the bottom line resource is always God as our counselor, as our advocate, as our friend, as our companion, as the one who created the covenant and the one who can help us through anything. So all of these 5 attitudes that I've shared with you today in this podcast, again, help foster that culture of reconciliation in your marriage and in your other relationships.